Ladies and gentlemen, the time is upon us. Unitronic's Flexfuel tune is here, along with some pretty cool tech that we're going to be going through the install of today. Unitronic has decided to do Flexfuel in a way that I really like. So in a lot of instances, we add components by pinning into the ECU, and it can be a little cumbersome. It can be a little daunting for some people because depinning and repinning an ECU can go bad fast. Unitronic's approach is pretty brilliant. They're tapping directly into the CAN bus system so they can add a module, and it integrates directly to the car. So on your dash, on your digital display, you're going to be able to view ethanol content, and the tune that will accompany it will automatically adapt for that ethanol content, meaning you can run straight 91, or you can run E85, or anything in between, and the car will be good. What they've done is created a little module that adds to the CAN bus. Really nice construction, as well as the wiring harnesses that they've included. This is the one that piggybacks onto the back of the sound actor control module, and we'll be going over how to get that installed. This plugs into our control module here. And finally, we've got our ethanol content sensor and temperature gauge harness. So this pigtail will plug right into here, and then we'll be able to hook up our sensor to it. This appears to be the standard for what we typically use on these cars for ethanol content sensors. It's a Continental sensor, but it is standard GM fuel sensor with 3/8 fittings. So what we're planning on doing here is the sound actor in these vehicles is located right under here, and the control module is right underneath it. So we'll be plugging this into the backside of it, routing this guy over this way, and my thought is that we will mount this in a neat, nice fashion down here, so it's really out of the way, but it still looks nice and you know what you're looking at. And then splice the fuel line here so that we can add our ethanol content sensor and have it be nice, neat, and concise. I'll probably mount it this way, so that just because my OCD, I want the plug to be going in the same direction as where it's coming from. But we should be able to get everything nice, neat, and we'll get it all wrapped up so it looks like it's supposed to be there. But we'll get started on the install and should have this buttoned up really quick. This is a true plug-and-play solution, so there's no wire splicing, there's no, again, pinning to the ECU, it's just send it. So the first step of this is going to be to take the passenger side cowl off. We don't need to fuss with the driver's side cowl, so we won't need to play with the wiper arms or anything, which is a plus because that can be one of the more difficult parts of the cowl. One thing to note with these guys, really on any Volkswagen or Audi going back to the dawn of time, they snap into the windshield here. There's a little bevel on the bottom of the windshield that they'll clip into. When you take it out, be gentle, and when you push it in, be gentle. You don't want to crack the retainer that's in there, and on these newer cars it shouldn't be a problem, but once they get some heat in them, a little bit of age, it can become standard Volkswagen plastics. So this guy, take off our weather stripping just back to where it separates here from the driver's side, and this will start to pop up from the windshield itself, just like that, and you can continue to pull it down and it will pop out of that channel. Once you get it there, you can see that it will separate here, and then you need to gently move that out of the way of the hood and pull this guy back. Now with that out of the way, we've got our air duct, or rain duct rather. So this will channel any rainwater that comes down in here into this drain hole and keep all of our electronics protected. So we're gonna go ahead and put our pick in here and pull it back, and it should, not too much trouble, just unclip. And we can pull this guy out gently and set it to the side. Now this little speaker looking thing is just that, a speaker. This is your sound-borne audio device, aka sound actor. This produces vibrations that are resonated through the windshield to give you an artificial engine noise, make it sound more sporty. A lot of people deactivate these. I haven't confirmed, but I do not feel like it will impact the functioning of this device at all. But just know that if you have unplugged your sound actor to delete it, it may need to be plugged back in. So underneath the sound actor, there is the control module, and you're going to be kind of flying blind here. You'll want to feel around. On a lot of these plugs from Volkswagen, if you take a look at the back side of this one, they've got these little gray tabs on them. And to get them to disconnect, you've got to pop them up just like that, so that you can press them in and disconnect the connector. Now, the connector that we're working with under here is no different. It's got the same gray connector, but you can't see it. And you can use a pick to get in there. It's just a little tough when you can't see. But if you're good with your fingers, feel in there, and you can feel that little clip. Just wiggle it with 2 fingers, one on either side, and once it's popped out, you can press it, and then you should be able to wiggle that connector right off. Is our 6-pin sound actor control module pigtail, which is what we'll be connecting to. Now, what I would do, just for the sake of simplicity, is probably plug this one back into the control module first, just so that you can keep this up here and out of the way and have as little stuff back there floating around as possible. Again, not being able to see, the wiper setup is very close to this, so it does take a little bit of finessing to get it in, but once you get everything lined up, it should just go. So without pushing that gray clip, you'll want to pull the connector in against the control module. You'll feel a click and hear it, and then pull the gray part in, and that will snap as well, and now it's secured. And we have both of these connectors, which can now be connected. Click and click. So everything is together now. We can run it back here to keep everything out of the way. And again, I don't think that you'll have any interference with actual moving parts of the wiper arm, but try to pull everything as close to the passenger side as possible, just to forego any potential interference. Now I'm gonna pull everything back underneath and do this way to make it as clean as I can. We'll take that off to give me a little bit more to work with. And I know that we're gonna want it to be down here, so I'm gonna run it under this channel where everything will be nice and neat. And we can just incorporate it with that with some zip ties once we're ready. So now with all of this plugged in and put together, we can reinstall our rain tray and the cowl and keep going. Okay. So we've got this guy. Being that we haven't actually set this up yet, I don't know exactly about how it operates, but this looks like a light to me, and I would assume it's an indicator light. So I personally think it's going to be a good idea to have it in a place where we can see it and observe it. A lot of you may be running BFI mounts, a lot of you may be running other things. You can do a lot to put it pretty much anywhere you want by the way that they've constructed this to be zip tied. I'll probably end up zip tying it potentially here, or just making a bracket so that I can mount it here. But any way you look at it, it can be mounted pretty much anywhere in this general vicinity. All right, so most likely you'll be okay, but these fuel systems are pressurized. We're working on the low pressure side, which at the max is somewhere around 70 to 100 psi at full load. It may sound like a lot, but it's not a lot compared to the thousands of psi that the high pressure system is making. Still, there's built up pressure in the system, and the lines are rubber, which means that they hold pressure against them. When you cut those lines, they spray. So just be aware of that and know that you may get some spraying. The other thing is, especially with Kessie cars, the fuel pump is likely to prime if it thinks that you're coming to get in the car. So just preemptively, it may prime the fuel pump, which if you've already cut the fuel line and you're working on it and it primes the fuel pump, fuel is going everywhere. So quick way to resolve this, you can disconnect the battery, but today we're just gonna pull the fuel pump fuse. So it's under SB29 on the Mark 8s, and it's this 15 amp fuse here. We'll just pop that out, set it aside for now, and we should be clear. Ultimately, we could run the vehicle and alleviate all the fuel pressure, but we'll let it sit here for a few minutes and let the pressure drop, which it may already have done because we've been working on it for a while without any intervention, and then we'll continue. All right, so we got the little bit of the extra fuel coming out. Now, I don't want to necessarily shorten any of this, but we do need to make a little bit more room. So I'm gonna move this back a tad and do some manipulation so that we can get enough room in here to comfortably fit that sensor. All right, so Unitronic sends these crimp clamps with the system, which I really like for these fuel lines because they're a lot more reliable than screw clamps. So we'll go ahead and get our sensor plugged in here. You'll want to put the clamp on first. Don't do what I almost did. And it should fit snug, but not be a nightmare to get in. And then when we clamp this down, it'll make it so it doesn't go anywhere. And this guy will go here. Oh. Don't make my mistakes. I'm really happy with where that is located. Looks nice, clean, and out of the way. Kind of like it's meant to be there, which is what we're going for. So the plan, and what I'm going to be doing is wrapping this up and tucking it away up there more so that we don't have any of this excess line. But my goal is going to be to put it somewhere down in here or here. But what we can do, we can go behind this. Come underneath. And that will put us right in this realm, which will be ideal. And this will wrap up as well. But for now, we just want to make sure that it's up and not going to be anywhere near those belts. That belt. We're going to use not the exact right tool for the job, but it'll work. Just don't pull too hard if you're using dikes. So there are pliers that go on either side of this and crimp like this. And what happens is it will leave a nice crease in it and a bow on top. This will do something similar, it just won't be as great. So this will get redone in a very short time. However, for now, we can just go ahead and start crimping here, and you'll see that as we do, this turns into a little bow, and this hose is now on there and not going anywhere. You find that after you've installed this Flexfuel sensor and the module and got everything finished up, your car has an EPC light, isn't running right or won't start, put the fuse back in. Mind you, we didn't forget it, we're just keeping it in mind here. So, little guy goes in SB29 again. Boop. And that should be all she wrote. Okay, we are crimped and clamped, good to go. So the final step is going to be getting all of the rest of it set up and the new file flashed. We're going to need to work with Unitronic to get that done, which they'll be available tomorrow for. So everything is installed from the hardware standpoint now, and we will follow up with the rest of it as soon as we are able. So with the device installed and everything ready to go, we've got to get the application set up, and it's already installed on the phone. We just need to get the device connected, and then we'll go over how to view everything on the actual dash, because with this device it will show the ethanol content on your dash for quick reference. So with the Unitronic app downloaded, it will come up to this landing page. It'll tell you that the device is not connected, and show it in a couple different places here, and there's a connection button here to show you all of the devices that have been or are available for connection. Quickest, easiest way is to click connect, but first we need to turn on the ignition. That'll power up the CAN bus and turn powering up the device, and from here we can just click connect, and it will show the device that is currently available. It's not currently connected, and we want to connect it. Goes through a quick Bluetooth pairing, and then it's connected. So from here we have a clear reading of our ethanol content as well as the fuel temperature. In this app they've got a pretty cool setup where you can really dial in your ethanol blends if you are blending. It can be a little bit tricky if you're trying to get to a certain point, but if you're doing a full tank, it makes it a breeze. The settings allow for darker light mode, and you can set an ethanol offset. So for example, typically regular gasoline will be running at 10% ethanol pretty much on the button, and if you fill up your tank with 93 and it's reading at 2, you can increase the ethanol content here, which will vary out the actual number, or alternatively, if it's showing 15% when you know that it's 10%, you can dial it back to make sure that the sensor is reading accurately. There is a firmware update option which will prompt you to do it every time that there is one available, but otherwise it should be pretty straightforward and simple. Now, as far as using the device with the car, we'll go ahead and turn on cruise control right now. And so with cruise control on, it shows us the power reading here, and it's in kilowatts. So as we drive the car, give it power, it'll start increasing and it'll give us a estimated power from the engine. Unitronic has taken over this display as well, so when you turn cruise control off, it shows your ethanol content in that window, which is pretty nifty. It may get a little confusing to some people because it still shows the KW at the bottom. However, it doesn't change when you're driving. It stays true to whatever the fuel content is. So it's a nice little feature. We're going to go ahead and take it to the dyno, and we're going to go through different fuel types. I think we'll probably end up doing 3 or 4 different ones, from 93 to E30 or 40 to E50-60, and then pure E85. I can tell you that this is mainly going to be for logging and getting data to Unitronic, because here in Texas we are dealing with some brutal heat. It's very humid, and for the last 3 weeks it's been 105 degrees out. So I don't expect to see any crazy numbers like we have in the past. We'll need to wait for boost season to come back. get it?
Yeah. E85 dyno.
Alright guys, so that about wraps it up. We have got the sensor installed, went over the app, got the flash taken care of, took it to the dyno on all 4 different fuel types, and I think this is a pretty good representation of just what this new Unitronic tune's all about. One thing to keep in mind, don't use the power numbers that you saw in this video as a good reference of how this tune is, because it's completely unfair with our atmospheric conditions out here. The temperature that we've been dealing with just is not good for power. But we did demonstrate the power differences between the ethanol contents, and I think come late fall or even winter time, we'll take it back to the dyno in some good weather and show you guys what this really does. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you guys have any questions, let us know and we'd be happy to help.